Felt like I had to throw on a little bit of a suit here to announce the big news that we have from Sony. Unfortunately, all the memes, Sony trolling, all that mentioning of the new Sony camera not coming out, we finally have the Sony A7S III. Yes, it's been 5 years since October of 2015 since we last had the Sony A7S II. 12 megapixel, full frame, but very, very video focused, and very important for Sony and for the videography, photography industry for what it offered. And it brought a lot into a mirrorless, smaller size camera body. But realistically, the running joke is like, every 2 or 3 years is a camera kind of lifeline, then it gets upgraded. And Sony used to put out a lot back to back to back. So it's really been about probably 3 years since people have been wanting something new from Sony in regards to heavy video focus. And now in 2020, we finally have it with the A7S III. Just gonna kind of run down some things. Other YouTubers and content creators are gonna break it down way more. I'm gonna share a lot of the info, but react to it at the same time. But I wanna have a discussion with you. So anything I bring up, any topic or any thought you have, write that down below along the way. But let's talk about the A7S III. I mean, and to be honest, why it's probably gonna be camera of the year, almost untouched. Even though we did have the Canon R5, we'll cover that in a minute. So the big thing to notate here is that this A7S III is actually priced under the R5, which is further gonna hurt Canon right now as the R5 and R6 are taking a lot of fire, if you know what I mean. So this is a very video focused camera, but it still has a lot of still image quality built into this. And the one new thing, it's got a new sensor, a new processor. The processor is like 8 times faster. And it's got the same 12 megapixel feel as the A7S II did. So you still have the lower megapixels, but that helps you get that resolution. Had the Nikon D700 shooting weddings back in the day, 12 megapixels, one of my favorite cameras of all time. Megapixels don't rule everything, but this is really to help video. With everything being new, Sony's also saying it's going to have 15 stops of dynamic range, which of course, Sony has been very, very good for dynamic range anyway, so I don't expect differently. They've also noticed improved ISO performance, and I've seen some shots at 100,000 ISO, and it really looks clean. Even if you get into like shadowy areas, it doesn't look that muddy, so whatever they're doing is absolutely working. The other big thing is that they improved their AF, and this is the first time in their S line that they have phase detect autofocus, which phase detect is probably the best out there. And once again, the A7S II had contrast detect and like 169 points or whatever, but phase detection is key, it's king, it's grail, and this has it right here. And the autofocus is like the A9, so that's the all in all be all, and I shared what I thought through that. And once again, if you go back to the megapixels and you're like, I went 75, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't want that for this type of stuff. You don't need that. Most of the people watching this doesn't need the high megapixels more than 20 anyway, so 12 is absolutely perfect. But the next big thing, and probably one of the most notable things, are like the camera build and some of its functions. And to get it right out of the mark, it has a side fully articulating touchscreen. It looks very good. It's very bright. And the other big thing right there, you're gonna notice that even the leaks didn't like catch either, is it has brand new improved menus, and they look very, very good. So it took like 5 to 10 years for Sony to be like, we're changing up the menus, but it seemed like they saved it for this camera. And obviously they're gonna use that going forward. So it's an amazing step. And once again, for the price under $4,000, it's good. But with that screen, the camera does definitely look a little thick, rightfully so. But compared next to like an A7R Mark IV, it's actually very, very close and maybe just a little bit thicker. So it's actually not something that's going to be too different from what you're used to, which is probably one of the biggest things there. The other thing, it does have a dual card slot. Of course, it's going to have that. UHS 2 SD card for one, and the other one is CF Express A. And if you use like the tough cards and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be able to get a lot out of it. And we'll talk about recording, video recording, and record time in a second, but it'd be useful to have larger memory cards for something like this. USB-C, which once again, a lot more cameras are starting to have this now, connectivity, which is basically the way you go forward, and an actual HDMI slot. That's big. And with the new menus, it'll have like your peaking, your zebras and stuff like that, but you'll have your actual headphone and mic in jack. So once again, the jack of all trades and the A7S III, you got what you need. And in regards to a little bit of the layout, you have the record button at the top right, kind of where the shutter is, and that moved a customization button. So the record button is in a very easily accessible place. So there you go. Slight change, but impactful. And really to note one more kind of a stills thing, which I think that this A7S III will definitely be a stills beast as well. Once again, the 12 megapixel helps keep the your numbers low. You'll be able to shoot a lot more. But even if you want to shoot fast, it does 10 frames per second with 1,000 frames per buffer. So that is a lot of photos. So keep that in mind. You'll be able to do a lot, fit a lot, and have a lot. Now, what everyone has been waiting for is the video, and in regards to video, it does not have 8K, nor does it need 8K. The R5, cool that it has it. It's having the heating issues, but this now has 4K, and you can do it to 240 frames per second, kind of on the high end. Not a lot of people are going to use the 240, but you can fully use up to 120 frames per second, internally shoot 10-bit 422 RAW. But also at the same time, even if you want, you can also shoot that out externally, 16-bit RAW 422 as well. So you're able to simultaneously internally record, and if you want to go external to like some kind of like Atomos, Flame, Ninja, whatever they are, you can do that at the same time and have a full RAW readout through an actual HDMI. Whew. You hear a lot of people say it actually handles heating very, very well. And Sony's gotten so much better with all the heating stuff and overheating over the years. So that's really not an issue anymore. And them not stressing that 8K stuff where people aren't mocking the R5 with built-in fans now. It's definitely a big deal for them. And when I mentioned the bigger the memory card size is that there's no recording limit. So now you are free to record as long as you have space. Absolutely key. And the other big thing that I want to mention is that there is no crop in any of the 4K. Now, if you are using active stabilization though, to give you that, stabilization, you do get a little bit of a slight crop, but obviously with that off, for most of the time, there's no crop. So you get everything. I guess the only thing I'd want to see in the A7S III would be a built-in ND filter. But yet again, you're asking for a lot. It's sub $4,000 US dollar camera. So of course, if you're buying this, you probably are invested in more professional lenses and you probably have professional filters. So that could be your ND right there. You can grab variable if you want, or your hard stops. But that'd be really the only other thing I'd want to add into something like this to really make it the perfect camera. Perfect in regards to video. There's probably still stuff to work out. But other than that, I don't know what else can top this. And, the R5 for Canon is definitely breaking for them. Be it, yes, the heating issues, but that'll get fixed and addressed over time. But once again, Sony over the past couple of years has made a name for themselves, coming from almost nowhere, starting from the A6000, mirrorless, no one took it seriously, to all the way up to now, this A7S III in regards to video and taking over Canon in video. This, I don't know what else could beat the A7S III for camera of the year. I know it's all paper and all specs, but you'll see a lot. You'll see a lot of the other content creators vlog and talk and use it, and hopefully I get my hands on something this year. It's tough with everything going on right now. But that being said, I don't know what mark this misses, especially for video. Especially 2 or 3 years ago when I switched to Canon, I looked at the 5D Mark IV. Of course I had that. And then if you've been following me, I had the 1DX Mark II because I really wanted optimal video game for YouTube. And obviously now I shoot with the Canon M50 for video, and my stills is the Fuji X100V. But if this camera was there back then, this A7S III, I would have been Sony, probably full out there, just because of the ecosystem and a lot of the capabilities there. Once again, I don't personally care about 4K. I don't really think it's useful for YouTube yet, but I know in actual shooting and editing, being able to crop and have a little bit more without losing that resolution, having 4K is key if you're a professional. So that being said, A7S III, Sony, you took some time to come out to us, but I see why it took so long. And it's exciting to see what the new stuff, even just the menus and stuff like that, what you're going to do with that going forward. But video people people who are into Canon, you know, what Nikon came out with their Z5, etc. Sony users, what do you think about the A7S Mark III? Let me know down below. Some of my friends who are Sony shooters said it's an instant pre-order, which you can basically do right now, and it's going to ship in like a month or so. Just a quick, come on, you made me put on a suit jacket for this. You know it had to be something good. Once again, I'm not necessarily even a Sony shooter. I mean, it's that good.